anyone used to paying for fuel elsewhere in the world, it's a pleasant surprise to pay for petrol in the United States. A gallon of gas at this station in Brooklyn is going to cost me just $3.79. That compares with more than $8 for the equivalent amount in the United Kingdom. It's cheap because it's lightly taxed. The federal government is taking less than 19 cents for every gallon pumped at this station, and on top of that, the state of New York is taking less than 70 cents. On top of the relatively modest taxes I'm paying to drive, I've got free use of 4 expensive to maintain bridges over New York's East River. And when I get into Manhattan, I've got an excellent chance of free use of a parking space amid some of the most expensive real estate in the world. Unfortunately, all that cheap and free use of the roads has a downside. Although New York State has some of the US's highest charges for drivers, they still cover less than 60% of the cost of maintaining the state's roads. On a national level, the federal gas tax has not been raised in more than 20 years. That and cars' increasing fuel efficiency mean the Highway Trust Fund, which once paid for the US's sprawling interstate system, is due to go bust this year. The net effect is a funding crisis for the country's infrastructure.
The infrastructure funding issue in the United States is very severe. We're at a crisis at the moment. We have federal transportation money that relies on the gasoline tax. That's going to run out in the summer of 2014. Nobody has any good plans as to what to do after that. While people on the Republican aisle, the Democratic aisle, all say we ought to do something about it, nobody has really stepped up to the plate, and we don't see any heroes out there.
It's not hard to spot the consequences. All across the US, bridges are steadily crumbling. Roads are full of potholes. Transit systems which get funding from the Highway Trust Fund are also suffering. Many of the New York subway signals are 70 years old.
It's not just that the infrastructure is old. In many ways, it is deteriorating, breaking down, and it's causing havoc in the lives of New Yorkers. We saw this not too long ago with an explosion resulting from a gas main in East Harlem, but also 11% of all the bridges in New York City are structurally deficient. They are at risk of serious damage.
The revenue shortfalls are prompting some states to take the unpopular step of raising gas taxes, while the federal government is looking at a business tax reform to fund transport. The state of Oregon is going to start a trial of a per-mile charging system for road use. In New York, one potential fix is to introduce charging on all bridges and tunnels into Manhattan and a toll barrier at the south end of Central Park. That would both allow the dropping of the often steep charges on bridges in outlying bits of the city and produce billions of dollars of annual revenue to fix outstanding problems.
The Move New York plan would raise more than $1.5 billion in revenue from just being fair about the tolls and just by also being fair about people traveling within the borough of Manhattan. And with $1.5 billion, we've had bonding agencies come to us and tell us that this looks like we can bond $15 to $20 billion. We could take $500 million of that and put it into state of good repair, spend mega billions on some new projects, and also rebuild our existing subway stations, our existing subway systems, our roads and our bridges with that kind of money. We need that kind of infusion.
Short-term and local fixes aside, however, there's no immediate sign of a comprehensive solution to the US's infrastructure funding problems. That's leading cities to look for alternatives. One of the most popular is a means of transport that doesn't contribute anything to paying for the roads, but also doesn't entail the very heavy costs in congestion and pollution that providing roads for cars does. It's certainly not a comprehensive solution, but for many of us it's a lot more fun than being stuck in a car. Robert Wright, Financial Times, New York.